Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1138B, and today's date is November 28th, 2016, and the title of the episode is Jill Stein's vote recount is not a vote recount, it's something much worse. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as Obama approaches his last couple of days in office, he is rushing through a final set of executive actions in his final 2 months here. Now, we know that Congress, they voted to block his ability to pass any new laws or policies, but he is doing whatever he possibly can to get everything through at once. He's pushing through new regulations on commodities, speculation, air pollution. He's pushing regulations about Medicare drug payments, high-skilled immigrant workers, in order to cement his legacy. He's very worried about his legacy. But of course, when Trump gets into office, most likely all of this will be reversed. At least we hope so. We see that the establishment, well, they don't want to accept that the people of the United States decided that Trump is going to be the new president. Now, what's very interesting is that throughout the election, they kept on saying to Trump, when you lose, are you going to concede and take it like a man? Well, he didn't lose, he won, and Hillary lost, and it seemed like she really didn't take her own advice. And then we have Jill Stein, who started this entire campaign to have recounts in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And she started to create this campaign to have people donate. Now, what's very interesting about all this is that the donations came in very, very quickly. And it looks like this was not just a grassroots uprising where people are saying, oh, let me just donate to have these recounts done. It looks like these were big donors because at one point, the donations were coming in at $4,883 per minute. And we see right now that she's trying to get Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin to recount. Now, the question is, why is she doing this? Why is she pushing a recount vote? Now, people are saying, well, even if they recount, are the electors going to change anything? What is all this about? Well, we know the electors, they meet on December 19th. And before that time period, Trump is not the president-elect just yet. And we discussed this many times before. We see that 2 states right now, Michigan, they just certified that Donald Trump was the winner of the state's electoral votes. And we see that Wisconsin denies the request for the recount to be done by hand, but they will recount. And we see the Wisconsin Elections Commissioner, Chairman Mark Thompson, who is a Democrat, announced earlier that the committee would follow through with Stein's recount request, but denied a request that the recount be conducted by hand. And he also said that this recount is very unlikely to change anything that stands right now. So the question is, why is she pushing this so hard? I mean, she's raised almost $7 million now. It keeps going up and up and up. Is this for personal interests? No, because she has less than 1% of the vote in these states, and this wouldn't really help her in any way. Well, is she hoping that the recount would maybe tip it towards Hillary? Well, multiple experts and even the Hillary campaign insiders have admitted that overturning election results with a margin of victory of several thousand votes is kind of unlikely. Is she trying to expose voting machine hacking? Well, that's absolutely not true. Is she going to keep all the funds that she's raised and keep the donations of millions of dollars? Maybe. But people might call her out on that. I know there was fine print saying that she might not be able to get the recount, and the money will be used for other purposes. So what is she really trying to do? Well, we have to go back to the Electoral College, and they meet on December 19th. Now, they know they can't push Hillary's electoral votes up past Trump's. They know this is not going to work. But what they can do, and this is according to Edward Foley, who is an expert in election law at Moritz College of Law at Ohio State University, while these states are recounting, they are like in limbo right now. And Trump will not have those electoral votes. And they're hoping to keep these, and this is why she wanted the votes done by hand, because it will take longer. They're hoping to have these votes counted past the December 19th date. Now, what would that give them? Well, that would mean that Trump only has 260 electoral votes, and Hillary has 232, and they can say, nobody won. No one has the 270 electoral votes. And then this would then move to Congress to decide. And we know that right now that Congress is made up of Republicans, the Senate and the House. And most likely they would choose Trump or Pence. But I think what they're going to try to do is say, well, wait a minute. Hillary has the popular vote. She should actually be the winner of all of this. And we can see it is a stall tactic. Now, they're trying to do all of this within the law. Well, kind of in the law. And it looks like they have multiple phases leading up to when Trump is sworn in. And we can see they're pushing and they're preparing for phase 2. Now, this is phase 1. They have phase 2, which is in January, where they're going to have protests, where most likely they're going to try to break it out into riots and maybe go from there, maybe have it spread across the nation. We don't know if they're, let's call them sleeper cells in different cities preparing to push rioting to bring martial law into the picture. And we can see right now, this is their plan. They're not conceding. They're not saying, okay, Trump is going to be the president. It looks like they have multiple phases of trying to stop Trump from being the president. And this is something that we need to watch, because we can see they are definitely pushing their agenda. We see today the corporate media was out there, and they were saying there were an active shooter which was happening in Ohio, that people are being shot, the person is opening firing, and it turns out there was no guns, no one was shot. The person had a butcher knife. The person took their red SUV, drove their SUV into a building, and started to stab people. Now, the person is a 20-year-old Somali refugee. They are saying that he's a legal citizen, and there are very conflicting news stories about his age, what was he really doing there, what is his motive, and we see that Site Intel's Rita Katz, which is a propaganda outlet, she's out there tweeting like crazy that this could be the Islamic State. And these attacks look consistent with the Islamic State, and most likely it is the Islamic State. And again, with all these different things, there's always different agendas associated with what's going on. Now, the corporate media, they wanted this to be an active shooting. They wanted to show that guns are bad. But here we are with a butcher knife. And what are they going to say? They're going to have to outlaw butcher knives? Again, it is not the weapon that's the problem. It's the person. Someone gets behind the wheel of a car, decides to mow down 20 people It's not the car, it's the person driving the car. Same thing with someone who's using a knife, but they don't want to go with the knife because it's not a good story for them because they're trying to get rid of the weapons from the people. But again, it's not the knife, it's not the inanimate object, it's the person using it. And when people think, well, people, if we get rid of the weapons, people won't kill anymore. Really? So throughout time, when there were no such thing as guns, people didn't kill, which is absolutely ridiculous. And if we get rid of weapons and make them illegal, guess what? They won't be able to get a weapon. Really? Well, drugs are illegal. People can still get drugs. During the Prohibition, alcohol was illegal, and people were able to get alcohol on the black market. So whatever the government is trying to convince you of, guess what? It is always the opposite. So we see out in the Philippines, Duterte, he is pulling away from the United States. And we know back on November 8th, Duterte claimed that he was going to cancel an order for 26,000 U.S.-made M16 rifles, saying that we can get this type of hardware someplace else, we can get it domestically. And what he's doing right now is he's moving away from the United States and moving closer and closer to Russia and China. And he's out there saying that the Philippines are ready to buy arms from Russia. And they're looking to go ahead and start making purchases from Russia and even maybe China. We see Ukraine is out there, and they are pushing the propaganda hard. We see they're saying that the Russian authorities, well, they're preparing for a large-scale provocation against Ukraine and Belarus. And Ukraine, they are doing everything they possibly can to provoke Russia before Trump gets into office. They're having a missile drill over Crimea. They're continually using propaganda to say that Russia is building up its troops. Why in the world would Russia do this at this point? There is no reason for them to do this right now. And they didn't do it in the past. All the pictures and all the information they showed before all turned out to be fake, phony, and false. What's happening right now is everything is falling apart for the central bankers, the globalists, the shadow government. Things are not going their way. And they're trying to provoke Russia, North Korea, China, Syria, anyone they possibly can to get this war started. Because what's happening is, throughout the Middle East, well, they lost control of many of the countries. For instance, Yemen, the Houthis, they are forming their own government. And they are creating a government. They're going against the UN-backed effort. Because what is happening is the Houthis are saying, you know something? We need to take control. We don't want the puppet government in here. The Houthis, they control territory with more than half of Yemen's population. And we can see right now they're ready and prepared to run Yemen without the United States. We see out in Libya, the people of Libya, they're rejecting the unity government. They are prepared and ready to run their country without the U.S. government. Yes, there are still factions inside of Libya trying to gain power, but the people recognize this is an internal issue, and the United States and the coalition forces should not be involved. Iraq, we're having the same problem. People are looking at this puppet government saying, we do not want this puppet government because they're not working for us. And all of this is falling apart. Now, the United States government, the central bankers, they are losing the edge in Syria, which is a major problem. And we can see right now that the terrorists in Aleppo, well, they have lost 45% of their territory. Right now, the Syrian government controls the northern eastern part of Aleppo. And the Islamic State, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, al-Sham, the moderate rebels, which is really all one and the same, they have lost their footing in Syria. Assad right now is setting up deals with the terrorists, saying, listen, lay down your heavy weapons and we will allow you to leave. He's also saying, listen, come back to the Syrian government and there'll be no charges, no questions asked, because we can see right now that you're going to lose. And Assad saying, we're giving you this chance to come back into the fold of the Syrian government. And we can see right now, the United States government central bankers, they're stuck. Russia, Syria, they have the upper hand in Syria, which means they might try to do something. They might try to use a tactical nuke. They might try to use an event around the world. And they're still pushing the idea that the Islamic State is planning attacks across Europe. Because what they're putting out there is that this British general has claimed that they found and they seized intelligence saying that the Islamic State, they're planning terror attacks across Europe and inside the United States. This is coming from Major General Rupert Jones, Deputy Commander of the U.S.-led Operations Against Terrorist Group. And we can see right now that they're pushing the idea that these events are coming. Now, why would they do this at this point? Well, the first reason is what we've been talking about. This economy is deteriorating very, very quickly. This holiday season is not going well. And how do you explain away an economy where retail is dying, people are losing their jobs, people who are trying to look for a job only can find part-time jobs? It is very difficult to convince the world that everything is A-OK. And they know this because as things deteriorate quicker and quicker, it's getting harder and harder for them to explain why this is all happening. Now, they can only have the people look at the stock market for so long until they say, well, wait a minute, the sales, the revenue from all these companies, it really makes no sense whatsoever. And something could come out of left field that brings the entire system down, and they'll have no control over it, which they don't want to happen. They want full control. And what they really want to do is bring us into war. Now, hopefully, we won't enter into war, but they're going to try to bring us into war. Remember, they have certain goals. They want to reduce the population, they want to reset the system, and they want to control the flow of information. And again, start this whole thing over again and maybe remove the people's rights, all at the same time. This is what they've been trying to do for a very long time. And they're trying to bring the world under one rule. That's the globalist plan. And they've been working on this for a very, very long time. And they're not just going to say, oh, you know what, it didn't work out. Well, what are you going to do? No. They're going to push their plan as hard as they possibly can until they get their way. And look what they've done in the past with 9/11, with the other events that you see throughout Europe and the United States. Well, these were small events. They're going to push this to the next level because we're at the end game here. They're becoming desperate. Desperate people do really horrific things, and they don't care who they hurt. So what we're seeing right now is a push to reach their goal. And these people are very goal-oriented. We've been reporting on this for a very long time. They have not given up getting into Syria. I mean, go back to 2013 when they said, oh, all we want is Assad to have no chemical weapons. That was a complete lie. They were pushing and pushing all throughout 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016 to get Syria. It has not stopped. So they're going to push their goals. They're going to try to meet their goals, and they don't care who they hurt, what they have to destroy. It makes no difference to them. And this is why everyone needs to be ready and prepared for what is coming, because they are backed into a corner, and they have very few options left. And they will resort to a major event to push their goal. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.